Hey everyone, Mortgage Nerd here. So we're going to talk about the housing bubble again. And why? Because look, Google Trends is showing everybody's talking about this housing bubble. But what I want to show you is there's this person, a commentator who does a lot of news articles, and she's always on CNBC, as you can see here, Diana Olick, talking about the housing bubble. So here you see 2001, 2016, 2021, 2021, where we go, 2017, 2016, talking about the housing bubble that's coming up. 2015, she says, a larger bubble than 2006. Imagine if you would have listened to her and not purchased in 2015, and now your house is worth double what it was. I bet you a lot of people did listen to this type of stuff. They don't listen to the true facts. They listen to these people that use certain stats. Like what she used recently is about listings. That a house that's listed, 12% of them have dropped their prices. And she's also said that there's more listings. There's 8% more listings than there were previous months. What does that mean really though? I mean, if you list your house at 700, but the appraised value is 600, you might not get anybody coming to your door. If you list it at 600, you might get people that'll offer you 650 or 625 because that's the market we're in. So if you're listing your house too high and then you bring the price down to what it's supposed to be, that doesn't mean that values are coming down or that there's a housing bubble. This is just common sense. But people like her are alarmists and they want to create this, uncertainty and for you to watch the articles and stuff because this is what makes them money. And since 2015, she's been talking about it. Eventually, she might be right. There might be a housing bubble like in 2030. If you look at my video on birth rates, then 2030 sounds realistic because that's 33 years after the lowest point of birth rates that we've had since the 1980s. But let's address what she said about listings going up, that there's more listings. This happens every single year. So every year around January, listings drop to their lowest because there are places like Michigan and stuff like that where it's really cold and people don't want to list their house and have to get out of their house for someone to come look at it, and who wants to really spend time in the yard to see how nice it is and all that in the winter. So listings drop and then they come up. And then in 2020, 2020 is difficult because that was the pandemic year. But you look at 2021, drop and rise. 2022, drop, and now it's starting to rise. Also look at this. In 2019, we had almost 2 million homes for sale, listings. 2007, we had almost 4 million. It was 3.7 million listings, properties for sale. That's when the market crashed soon after. But instead of the inventory going up, which is what causes oversupply and not enough demand, causes values to drop. But with birth rates, I showed you the demand. With the homes built, the lowest since the 1930s, the fewest homes built was in the last decade, 2010 to 2019. I showed you that too. So supply is low. Here we have proof. Look at the inventory. It's the lowest in history. We've never had the inventory this low in history. And yeah, it's starting to go up, but it's like kind of trying to go up. Why would you alarm and tell people there's a housing bubble? All right, what about just showing, look, that it goes up every year. It drops at the beginning of the year and goes up. Look, the beginning of the year, that's the first of the year. Goes up in spring, comes down in winter. 2020, it's not as dramatic, the increase because of the pandemic. And last year, it's not as dramatic. I guess you could say it's not because of the lockdowns, or were there lockdowns that time of year? I don't remember. We in Florida, we weren't locked down like that. Still peaked and then came down. And now we're gonna see that same pattern. Hopefully, I hope that the inventory comes up to like 1.6. We'll have a more balanced market. If you see it go over 3 million this year, then I'm gonna be an alarmist. I'm gonna be saying housing bubble. But there's too much demand. Too many people are gonna eat up all these properties, eat up all this supply before it reaches that point. You need to realize one other thing. Look at the lowest inventory in history at the beginning of 2021, right? That very low inventory compared to any other year. Yet we had the most home sales in history. Over 6 million houses were sold, I think it was. I don't remember the exact number, don't quote me on that. But the most in history sold in 2021. That shows you the strength of this demand, that it doesn't allow the supply to go up. And that's why the values keep rising. And that's why it's not going to stop, even with interest rates in the 5s, 6s, and 7s. There are people buying houses right now with rates in the 6s and 7s. They're doing debt service coverage ratio loans. Anyway, that's for another housing bubble video. Mortgage Nerd out.